ritual is going to be setting up symbolism in order to trigger certain phenomena within the subconscious mind based on what these symbols are actually representing. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Universal Mastery. Welcome back to my public YouTube channel. What exactly is it that we're going to be speaking about in this today's video specifically? We are going to be discussing exactly how you can completely reprogram your subconscious mind using occult energies, specifically in the form of communication with entities, different spirits, potentially different archetypes. This is all going to be happening through certain occult practices that are known as invocation, which is basically a very advanced form of doing proper meditation. So I'm going to be discussing a little bit more about this subject on how you can completely reprogram your subconscious mind to put you into more alignment with some of the things that are a little bit more authentic to who you truly are, or to put you more in alignment with things that you're actually wanting out of life itself. If this is a video that interests you and you want to know a little bit more about the occult science on how to reprogram the subconscious mind, this is definitely the video for you. So you simply have one thing to do, and that is to stay tuned, and I will see you on the other side. Alright, let me first start with introducing myself just in case you don't know who I am. My name is JeremiahJSchwartz. I am a professional occultist. I am fully initiated in the entirety of the Kabbalistic tree. I'm studied when it comes to the 22 major arcana of the tarot deck. I'm studied when it comes to planetary energies in association with astrology. And I'm also studied when it comes to trauma and its relationship to the nervous system. Alright, so with that being said, let's go ahead and roll into it. So we are talking about how to reprogram your subconscious mind to be more in alignment with some of the things that you're actually wanting out of life. But I would say most importantly, to put you more in alignment with things that you actually need out of life. Okay? So the first place that we want to understand, or the first place that we want to look at, is how our subconscious minds get programmed in certain ways that actually causes us to live a life that we don't actually really enjoy living, or live a life that is out of alignment of what our purpose is here on this planet. So when we look at, the average person, most people are involved in relationships, family dynamics, patterns of behavior, substance abuse, certain types of addictions, etc., that are consistently having an effect on the subconscious of that human being. Now, the engagement with these unhealthy coping mechanisms, literally, as it prolongs itself, especially in the younger years during the early childhood self-development stages, this is having a significant effect on the subconscious mind of that human being, meaning it is actually wiring that person on a nervous system level through the subconscious to gravitate more towards those unhealthy coping mechanisms. Therefore, they are going to be generating or producing reality that is going to keep them stuck in the energetic resonance of whatever these unhealthy coping mechanisms are keeping them in. So in other words, the life that that person's going to live is going to be mediocre. There's going to be a lot of pain and suffering. There's going to be a feeling of stagnation. There's going to be a lot of room for a bunch of symptoms, physical body symptoms to manifest, unhealthy relationships to manifest, unhealthy behavior patterns to manifest. And they're basically going to be stuck in this loop or stuck in this cycle. and they can try to navigate themselves out of it, but it's going to be really challenging because these patterns and these behaviors are rooted in the nervous system and they are operating through the subconscious mind. So to some degree, this human being is actually going to be seeking these unhealthy coping mechanisms because of that wiring. This is actually very common. Most of us on the planet are dealing with this dynamic to some degree. Now, does that mean that if this is happening to you, or if this has happened to you, does that mean you're screwed? Or does that mean you're stuck? Does that mean, oh, well, your nervous system has been wired a certain way, your subconscious mind is set in its ways, now you're just a slave to your own subconscious. Now you're just a slave to your own wiring. Well, of course, the answer to that question is absolutely not. Throughout your entire life experience, there are many opportunities and there are many ways that you can rewire your subconscious mind, and there are ways that you can rewire your nervous system. But I think one of the most important things to do first before we get into the rewiring is to take a nice look at what are your relationships, what is your current living circumstance, what is your current environment, and what are the current unhealthy coping mechanisms that you might be attached to right now. Because these things are going to hold you in your old wiring. They're going to hold you in place with what is familiar, and probably what's familiar is avoiding the repressed negative emotions within your nervous system that are rooted in trauma. And that's where the unhealthy coping mechanisms come into place, where you use those to further run away from what you're actually supposed to be feeling. So when we have relationships that support unhealthy coping mechanisms and family dynamics that support unhealthy coping mechanisms, or certain environments that support these unhealthy coping mechanisms, this is the first place we really want to look at in order to move ourselves out of those circumstances or out of those situations, by basically cutting that energetic cord between these things, creating a hard boundary saying, you know what? I'm realizing I'm not really making any progress in my life in this family, in this relationship, in this environment. I think the only next logical step to take is to remove myself from this relationship or remove myself from this environment so that I can start experiencing life from the space of who I actually am, not being influenced by my family or not being influenced by certain friends, not being influenced by partners, not being influenced by this work environment. I may need to shift things drastically and get myself into a new environment, a new space, so that I can basically have a clean slate to then start the reprogramming of my subconscious mind. This is going to be probably the most important step to take to really do some significant reprogramming of the nervous system and the subconscious. But for some reason, if you're still engaged in these types of dynamics and in these situations, and you are unwilling to leave these circumstances, first and foremost, that's a decision you're making, and that's something that you're going to have to work through eventually. But you can still start the reprogramming of the subconscious while you're in those environments, but it will start to naturally take you out of those environments and out of those relationships that are keeping you in place with the current wiring that is making you feel like shit, or making you feel like you're stagnant, making you feel like you're not able to live your purpose and all these other things. So it's going to be a little bit more challenging to do the rewiring while you're still in the environment of where the wiring of your system started to align you with things that aren't truly you, right? It's like trying to put yourself out. It's like you're on fire, standing in the fire, and you're trying to put yourself out. The first place to put the fire out, the first step that you have to take to put the fire out is removing yourself from the burning building. Then we can pour water on your body. Then we can, get you in a space where you're good. It's a lot harder to pour water and put the fire out when you're standing in the building that's on fire, that caught you on fire in the first place. Hopefully you're understanding what it is that I'm saying. Now, let's go into the power of the occult and how we can use occult energies, entities, spirits, archetypes even, to start influencing and reprogramming the subconscious mind, which inherently starts to rewire your nervous system at the same time. So, when we are using the occult to reprogram the subconscious mind, we are most often going to be using this in the form of ritual. Okay, so ritual is going to be setting up symbolism in order to trigger certain phenomena within the subconscious mind based on what these symbols are actually representing. Now, there is a primal awareness that we all carry that actually understands what symbols mean. Even though we can look at a symbol and not know what it means logically or consciously, in the deep, deep, deep subconscious, unconscious realm within our own psyches, we actually understand what symbols represent. That could be shapes, it could be numbers, it could be colors, it could be designs, it could be embedded intentions and embedded energy, which it once again is intentions within certain objects that we actually are picking up on subconsciously. This is the power of ritual, and we are actively using these different mechanisms to trigger manifestation through the subconscious of our own beings to then have a physical result, to then cause a change or to cause a shift within ourselves and outside of ourselves at the same time. Because when we are causing internal changes within our nervous system, within our mind, within our emotional body, it is going to project itself in some way into the environment, the physical world around us. All right, so one of the most powerful ways to reprogram the subconscious mind is to actually do a specific occult practice, which is called invocation. Okay, so invocation is literally where you are invoking a specific energy into your body, literally into your nervous system, into your psyche, to then cause effects and changes within the nervous system itself based on the energy that you are invoking. The reason why this is so powerful to start reprogramming the subconscious mind is one, mainly because the energy that you can invoke absolutely and most of the times is what is known as a higher density energy. So in other words, these are energies that are not bound to earth. They are not human beings. These are what we could literally consider alien entities that are existing somewhere most of the times in our local galaxy that have existence in higher density spaces, meaning they have evolved past the third density Earth that we are currently living on this planet. So they have more awareness or more understanding of certain mechanics within the universe, and therefore they can absolutely have a profound influence on the human species if, and especially if, the human species is receptive to their influence. The only thing that can cut a human being off from potentially a higher density energy from influencing them is the human being's inability to be receptive to that energy that's trying to influence them. We have that power. That's our free will to say, I don't want any of that, cut it off. Right? And then you look at modern times religion and they demonize everything except for God and Jesus for the most part. And you can see how that sets the psyche up to cut energies off unless it's God or unless it's Jesus, when in reality there's so many different energies, entities, alien-like forces that actually have our best interest in mind that are consistently trying to influence us to help us understand our true nature and to help us step into our own authenticity and personal power. So with that being said, invocation is very powerful for this. Why is this so powerful? When you are getting into invocation, You are setting up your ritual space in such a way that it is designing your subconscious mind to literally be receptive. And to not only just be receptive, but to be receptive for whatever your intention is while you're doing the invocation itself. So let me give you a brief example of what this would look like and why this can be so effective. So when I go to do an invocation, typically what I'm going to start with is I'm going to set up my ritual circle. So I will set up a circle of roughly about 22 clear quartz crystals. Now the reason why I'm setting up this circle is not because the circle protects me. It's not because I need the circle to make the practice work. It's not because if the circle is not there, then this isn't going to function properly, or the spirit's not going to hear my call. The circle is for me. The circle to me is representing to my conscious awareness, as well as triggering other things within my subconscious, to recognize myself as being within the source. So when I set up this clear quartz crystal circle, that to me is representing the source energy. That's how I'm visualizing it, this like big ball of light, clear white light, right? And that's what my circle is representing. So when I'm inside of my circle, I am now sitting in that source consciousness. I'm sitting in that source awareness. Now, does that mean I don't have the source consciousness or the source awareness when I'm not in my circle? Absolutely not. I still do, but I'm just using this occult phenomena to trigger more of an influence towards this source consciousness by using it, by creating it physically through these quartz crystals, and then sitting inside of it as the practitioner or as the occultist. Now, does this have an effect on the subconscious to further connect me to the source energy? It does, because I'm using these higher principles to connect myself with the source energy. So it actually triggers something within my psyche to give me a perspective of sitting in that source energy more and more and more. Therefore, I'm able to further connect with this authenticity, this source energy within myself as I'm inside of the circle. All right, and then we're adding on other properties that are beyond modern time science, but when we look at the quartz crystal itself, quartz crystals are very good at holding and storing certain types of energies. So the structure, the molecular structure of that crystal itself is able to further hold my intention as I'm sitting inside of that circle, therefore helping me generate whatever it is that I'm trying to generate while I'm in the circle. So there are these properties that are going on here. Then I use numerology. So as I said, I use 22 roughly for the circle. 22 connects to the 22 major arcana of the tarot deck. So what I'm energetically connecting to by having 22 crystals is all of the different archetypes that generally affect all of us through our psyches. These are going to be subconscious and conscious archetypes that we are all significantly influenced by as the human species. Every single one of us is going to deal with these different archetypes. That's why they are part of the Kabbalistic tree, and they make up the different pathways that connect between the spheres. So by having 22 of those crystals, I'm linking in the energy of all of these different archetypes that are within my psyche as a whole, so that I can have better access to whichever archetype within myself that I'm going to need to connect to get results with whatever it is that I'm doing in the ritual or in the invocation itself. All right, so this is just giving you a brief example of how to use this ritualistic symbolism in a very practical and a simple way, but also showing you how powerful it can be when you're using it. Now, there's so many other things to add to this if you want to tap into deeper layers of the subconscious. Candles, incense sticks, potentially your own blood, other types of symbols, printing out pictures. There's occult formulas that you can implement to further manifest things using death energy. You could have a wand, right? Like different types of stones, herbs, oils, burning things, right? Like there's so many things that you can implement, but I'm not going to go into that now. If you want to do more education on how to use all these different symbols and understand what some of these occult formulas are, and once again, how you can implement them in your daily practices with consciousness, I highly recommend you check out my Patreon to get some more perspective on exactly what is going on when it comes to doing these invocations and these rituals. Okay, the Patreon that I have is thriving on a daily basis. There are more and more people that are joining it every single day. At this point, there's like 400 plus members, and it's just a very valuable place to get some more understanding and knowledge on the occult sciences. If you're interested, that's the first link in the YouTube description. Okay, so when we're doing the invocation, assuming that we have our setup to help support the process, the invocation is us actively being receptive and calling on a specific energy. Now, typically, when we're doing invocations as occultists, we are knowing which energy it is that we're calling. We're conscious of like, this is what I'm invoking. And the reason why I'm invoking this energy is because, one, maybe I just have an intuitive connection to whatever this entity is. I might not even know that much about the entity, but I'm intuitively being led to it. That's a reason why you might want to do an invocation. That's a reason that you don't fully consciously understand, but you're trusting your higher senses. Now, sometimes you do consciously know. When you start to study a little bit more about these different spirits and about these entities, you get to understand more of what they have an ability to influence with. So there are certain entities that are really good with finances. There are other entities that are really good with understanding the dynamic between males and females to create sexual attraction and create chemistry in that feminine masculine way. There are certain entities that help you understand how to assert boundaries better. There are certain entities that help you to go deeper within, like really deep within your subconscious mind, specifically to process trauma and then release it. Okay, so there are many different types of energies out there, and they all can do multiple things at once. Like one entity, just because it's really good at helping with finances, doesn't mean it can't also help you heal certain types of trauma, or do deeper layers of shadow work, or help you understand male to female dynamics. A lot of these entities can do a lot of things. They are higher density beings, but some of them, based on the locations that they reside within our local galaxy, they actually have more of an effect for certain types of things, depending on where they're located at in the galaxy. And that does play a big role. Just like when we study astrology and we understand the simple movement of planets have a major effect on our psyches as human beings, well, the same principle applies with these different entities that we are connecting with. Entities that are closer to Mars are going to have more of that Mars-like influence when you invoke them. Just like entities that are closer to Venus are going to carry more of that Venusian energy when you invoke them. And based on the certain constellations that they also reside within or around, that's also going to have an influence. So as you can see, this can get pretty nuanced. But when we're in invocation, we can structure it in a way where we are choosing which entity we're invoking. And as we're in the invocation itself, we are getting ourselves into a state where we are very receptive to other energetic influence. So typically what I do in my invocations is I create my own invocations, and I will create them in the form of a mantra. And then sometimes I might even add some like statements of what it is that I'm trying to create, or what it is that I'm trying to manifest, or what it is that I'm trying to do, whatever that is. I will state my intention. Now, generally what I'm doing is I'm switching it from the language that I speak, which is English, and I will switch it into a different language. The one that I go to most often is Latin. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm trying to get better access to my subconscious mind. And when I'm saying these things in Latin, I'm not really conscious of what I'm saying. So I'm able to tune much more into the vibration of the mantra and much more into the feeling and the emotion of the mantra, rather than as if I was saying it in English, where my logical mind would be paying attention to the words that I'm actually saying. Now, you can do both. They both can be very effective, but this is what I do, and I get a lot of results doing this. And I know a lot of other people that get a lot of results doing this. And you can mix both together. You can have some of it in Latin and some of it in English. This is the power of the occult and how creative you can really get with these practices. But generally, that's the thing, is I will say these chants and these mantras that will be geared around certain intentions that I'm wanting to create for myself. And I will say that a repetitive amount of times, and I will typically shift my voice as I'm saying these different mantras. Rather than me just saying it the way that I normally speak, I will try to add a little bit more of a vibration to my voice when I'm saying this, because the different vibration that is coming out of the voice has an effect on the nervous system. Actually, doing certain vibrations with the voice itself can help to regulate the nervous system within itself, which can also help to rewire the nervous system at the same time, because the more regulated you are, the more prepped you are to rewire your system as well in ways that you might want to, rather than as if you were dysregulated. So that's one proponent, but also just the vibration that you can add to the voice that has an energetic effect, just because the vibration, the power of this vibration that's coming out from the vocal cords. There really is power to that. So while in that invocation, I am getting myself into this regulated state where I'm tuning into my feelings, I'm tuning into my emotions. I'm saying it repetitively over and over, the mantra, the statement, the intention. But I'm not really paying attention too much to what it is that I'm saying, but I'm feeling what it is that I'm wanting at the same time. And as I go through this over and over and over again, once again, I'm getting more and more regulated. I'm getting more and more in a state to be influenced by something else, to be influenced by something that's meant to come down and potentially energetically influence me in the way that I'm looking to be influenced. So the whole point of this practice is to get the state of mind and the state of the body in a certain receptivity, into a certain place of receptivity, so that other energies can come through and influence you and rewire you in the way that you are saying that you are wanting to be rewired. Okay? This is the power of how to drastically shift the subconscious mind. Now, when I'm invoking the entity, I'm creating an invocation of that specific entity that I'm invoking. I'm going to generally create my own invocation. I'm going to go through that similar process of translating it in Latin. I'm going to call that energy down, and then a part of this invocation, I might have certain types of mantras and statements that are communicating what I'm intending as I'm calling on this energy. And then, as I said, I go through that whole process. I'm getting myself in that state where I'm just getting more in tune with my body. I'm getting more regulated. I'm feeling like there's energy that's around me. I'm feeling like I'm getting filled with this power, that what I'm doing is actually working. And then once that is all said and done, then I just stop everything and I sit there. And as I sit there, I am now paying attention, and I am allowing myself to be receptive to the other energetic influences that are now coming down into my body, that are literally manifesting because I'm doing the invocation itself. I am trying to pay attention to the differences in my body's feeling, trying to pay attention to the differences in my mind. Am I noticing any influences coming into my brain that are producing thoughts? Am I noticing any sensations on my body? And I'm allowing myself to really sit there and be in silence and in observation with the entity that I just invoked, paying attention to these little shifts and these little changes. And what's actually happening in this stage is the entity that you invoked, if you've done it properly, which is not that complicated, it just takes consistency and it takes seriousness for the practice. Once you've done this, that entity will hear your call. These are higher density entities. And when you make these calls through the act of invocation and you are supporting the subconscious mind through the process, that entity has an ability, just like a Bluetooth connection, to recognize a human being or another being that is making a call to the entity. And therefore, it will see you. It will recognize you as it's existing in the galaxy somewhere. It will notice your energetic call, and it will come. It will send some form of energetic support or some form of energetic influence through its own technologies, through its own science with its species. So the science that these entities, these higher density entities are operating off is very different than what we understand as human beings. They have abilities to generate thought forms in some really advanced way to then send it down to us as human beings that actually have significant influences on us energetically, like with our own energy bodies, as well as to enter into the nervous system to start reprogramming. Because a thought form can enter through the energy field, affect the mind, and then start the process of reprogramming certain parts of the nervous system, which is how you can reprogram the subconscious. And this is important to understand when it comes to working with the occult through invocation to reprogram the subconscious. When you understand this, you can use this to your advantage. You can spend time working with a specific entity that specializes with something that you're needing in your life or wanting in your life. And the more time you spend with that specific entity, the more it has an ability to influence you through its own abilities, through its own way of working with thought form generation and channeling energy down to the receiver. And you get to be receptive to those energetic influences and allow your nervous system to slowly but surely shift while working with that energy. And this will have a direct effect not only internally, but you will see external shifts and changes in your reality around you at the same time. So as you spend a session working with an entity doing this form of nervous system reprogramming, subconscious reprogramming, you can expect that once the session is done and then you go back out into your everyday life, you're going to see little subtle correspondences and subtle symbols of things that are going to appear that are going to further help you to rewire your nervous system and rewire your subconscious mind to put you in alignment with what it is that you're intending. Intending is key here. Whatever it is that you're intending is what you're moving towards. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're really in alignment with your purpose and that you're, doing the trauma work and you're doing the shadow work so that you can heal repressed negative energies to know more about who you actually are, so you can set intentions that are in alignment with what you're actually wanting. Because there are entities out there that will give you power and will help you manifest things that you think you want, even though you may not want those things, and you will have to go through that process of getting that thing to then realize you don't actually want it, and that can be kind of a hard experience once you've had it. It's like, wow, I just wasted all this time and energy, and this isn't even what makes me happy. But that's sometimes what these entities, specifically it's going to be the demonic, that are going to do these things to teach you lessons about who you actually are. Sometimes you need to go down that path to get what you thought you always wanted, to realize it's not what you want at all, and that's when you learn the lesson and then can start doing the deeper layered processing with the repressed emotions to further figure out, wait a minute, this is who I actually am. This is actually what's important to me. All right, so of course, invocations are very powerful. This is an occult technology. There are so many people on the planet today that are not conscious of this ability to reprogram the subconscious mind. And guess what? Most people aren't ready for this. This isn't for everybody. This is for the person that has already done enough work on themselves and has already been through enough challenge in their life to get to this point where they're watching this video today, to realize that these are actual practices that do work, that are available to the human species as a whole, but only if they are prepared to do this type of work. And once again, the consciousness of most human beings does not allow them to be receptive to this occult practice as actually being an effective mechanism for subconscious reprogramming, and also putting you into relationships and energetic resonance with these higher density beings. I mean, there are many things that are happening when we are doing these practices, not only just reprogramming the subconscious, rewiring the nervous system, but we are building relationships with these other higher density alien entities that then have pretty much always an ability to influence us through the subconscious, through thought form generation and other mechanisms of how they communicate, that can support us on our path of us living our purpose and, getting more in tune with who we are in our own authenticity, stepping into our power. So with that being said, of course, this is valuable information. And then I want to add one other piece, actually. The sigil of the entity itself is another powerful form to program the symbol of whatever energy it is into the subconscious mind. So every single sigil that you are using is an energetic code. These are not random symbols and random mechanisms. These are real energetic imprints and codes within these specific symbols, and how all these different symbols are placed and everything about it, that is able to seep into the subconscious mind when we are sigil gazing, which is when you look at a sigil and you find a point on it and you gaze at it to the point where the symbol starts flashing in and out. It will literally start flashing in and out, and that's how you know it's entering into the subconscious, which really helps to establish that energetic connection, that relationship to the entity, to the energetic resonance of what the sigil is connected to. So if I'm using a sigil of Lilith, this sigil is going to connect me to the entities that are represented by Lilith in the universe. And it is going to help me establish my connection with them. So using sigils with invocation, with different ritual mechanisms to support the subconscious in the process, is the most powerful way to literally, I swear to God, it is the most powerful way to reprogram the subconscious mind and go down the path of learning how to regulate your nervous system. But it is, as I said, although it is a very powerful way to do this, once again, not everyone is ready to do this work. Not everyone is ready to start reprogramming their subconscious and rewiring their nervous system and regulate the nervous system to this intensity, because it is going to require you to shift certain parts of your life to be able to regulate. And if some people aren't ready to make those shifts and they're not ready to let go of what the old is, then this can actually cause a lot of it can cause a lot of chaos to show up in your life to get you to realize what you need to do. But some people, when that chaos shows up, it re-traumatizes them. And they attach even more to the unhealthy ways. They attach even more to the unhealthy coping mechanisms rather than just letting go and letting the chaos shift them into a new direction in life. All right, so just be aware of that. Remember, if this was meant for the collective as a whole Everyone and their mom would be talking about this. But the reality is it's not meant for everyone, but it absolutely is meant for people that are ready for it. And for people that are ready for it, this is a huge tool to your self-development as an occultist. Literally, occultism is the deepest form of self-development. And when you apply occultism, proper occultism, not bypassing spirituality, proper occultism with nervous system regulation practices and trauma healing, this is the trifecta for stepping into your power, stepping into your authenticity, living a life that you truly want to live. All right, so with that being said, this is going to wrap it up. We're going to leave it there. If you enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up button. Definitely make sure you hit the thumbs up. Drop down in the comment section and let me know how this influenced you. Let me know what you learned from this video. Let me know if you're aware of what I'm talking about. Let me know if this is something you've never heard before. And once again, exactly what you learned from me sharing this. Also, go ahead and give me recommendations on things you would also like to learn a little bit more about when it comes to these occult sciences. Because at the end of the day, this is absolutely what I'm extremely passionate about. I absolutely love the occult, okay, and anything self-development. So, moving on, go ahead and hit the notification bell. Make sure you're getting notified for whenever I'm posting this content. You don't want to miss out. Go into the subscribe area and make sure you are subscribed to my YouTube channel. If you are not yet subscribed, you are making a massive mistake. I promise this. By subscribing, you are going to further link into my content, which means you're going to get more energetic value from what it is that I'm teaching, because there's going to be a connection between me and you. Okay? So take advantage of it. Copy and paste this link and send it to someone that you feel like would gain value from it. Do me that favor. Do you that favor. Do your friend that favor. Send it out. You have my full permission. All right? We'll leave it there. Now, I'm going to take your awareness to the most important link within the entire YouTube description itself. This is the first link in that YouTube description. It's at the very bottom, first link below. This is the Patreon. Now, on the Patreon, I have an entire vault of exclusive occult content. If you felt like this video was valuable, where I'm breaking down some of these occult sciences, where once again I was talking about there's different occult formulas that you can implement, all these different creative tools that you can implement to support the subconscious mind to manifest using occult ritual, you need to be a part of my Patreon to study a lot more on these different mechanics.